Ashe. It's so good to see so many good faces, so many familiar places, and so many new faces. Well, my talk today. First of all, let me give thanks. Thanks to Entheo, thanks to Dr. Vidal, thanks to Tamarian, thanks to all the energies, all the spirits that put this together, put this container together. It's always good to be in these types of energies. So my talk today, we're going to talk about why Black trips matter. And just while I get my slides, there we go. Let's go. So this is going to be about harm reduction for Black bodies in psychedelic spaces. But yes, this is going to be about harm reduction for Black bodies in psychedelic spaces. I think it's a very important topic, especially with all of us, a lot of us in our community coming back to this ancestral knowledge. We've been out of touch for a very long time. So I think it is integral in this psychedelic renaissance that we have this discussion and we continue to have this discussion. Especially when we're reconnecting back to our ancestral practices. Hi, I'm Aurora Divine. I'm a lot of things to a lot of people. I'm a cultivator of consciousness first and foremost. I'm an activist, a cultural stewardess, specifically for my melanated people. I'm an entheo-educator, a psychedelic doula, and that may be new for a lot of people. So I usher spirits into this world with the use of entheogens. I hope I help mothering bodies use the assistance of these plant teachers and sit at the feet of these plant teachers to usher these new energies and old and ancient energies as well into the world. I'm a mycologist, cultivator, and I'm a founder of the Akashic Garden. So where I do this every day, I help us reconnect back to that ancestral consciousness and keep BIPOC voices alive, especially in these types of spaces. So just a couple of the things that I want to touch on briefly during this talk today is that privilege in psychedelic spaces and what that looks like. Anti-racism it is a form of harm reduction, cultivating and facilitating safe spaces for Black people. There's a lot of privileges that a lot of us don't realize exist in these spaces. That privilege to just drop $2,500 at a ketamine clinic and sit with somebody, drop your card, that accessibility that a lot of us in our communities don't have to any of the medicines. All of us can't go like I did. I spent 8 months in Ecuador, 7 months in Peru, sitting with several different tribes, learning and sitting with ayahuasca medicine. A lot of us can't afford a trip to go down there, and that's a privilege. It's a privilege to just be able to get up and go pick a mushroom in the morning because we've had that knowledge to cultivate this medicine. A lot of that has been stripped from us. The privilege to speak openly in spaces and just have things like this happen, to be able to go to, let's say, a Grateful Dead concert and just pure some medicine. There's something that's not afforded to a lot of us, especially in the BIPOC communities. Again, anti-racism is a form of harm reduction. And harm reduction is very important when we're in these vulnerable spaces. And so when you have our trip sitters and our facilitators and our guides and things like that, it's a very underrated form of harm reduction that we don't talk about a lot, about how speaking up as a white body in these spaces about Black and indigenous voices is a form of reducing harm that we can experience in these spaces. Just holding that in your heart, holding that in the space can be a form of harm reduction. And again, cultivating and facilitating safe spaces where Black bodies and brown bodies can trip and be in that vulnerable space and deify in that space in a safe way. Again, privileges in psychedelic spaces. What does privilege look like to the entheo community? I feel safe openly advocating for the beneficial use of illicit substances because I've never been stopped by police without legitimate cause. Nancy begins in order. How many times have you had to procure your medicine in a secretive way and you felt like you were doing something wrong? There's many of us out here that don't have that experience, like Miss Natalie doesn't have that experience. That's a big thing in my community, is when we think about going to medicate ourselves, going to heal ourselves, everything from cultivation, everything from even foraging, we get stopped. We have to think about always if there's an eye watching us, because there's always an eye watching us. And so it is an attack on our safety when we go and do it. Is a revolutionary act to heal ourselves, to communicate with these medicines. To acknowledge privilege is the first step in making it available for wider use. Each of us is blessed in some particular way, whether we recognize our blessings or not, and each one of us somewhere in our lives must clear space within that blessing where she can call upon whatever resources are available to her in the name of something that must be done. And that's the words of the awesome goddess Audre Lorde. Historically, Black people's voices, contributions, had been muted and undermined throughout various movements. The psychedelic renaissance is no different. So we saw it with the cannabis renaissance. A lot of Black bodies were left out. We were still sitting in jail cells while they were making dispensaries, having farms, and cashing in on the very thing that put us behind bars, that they put us behind bars for. And so our representation in these spaces, which is why I always love these conferences, because there's so much representation, so much of my reflection, so much of a mirror in these spaces, and it's important. We know how important representation is from the time we started seeing Black bodies and brown bodies on film, from the time we start seeing them in political places of power. But that representation matters. So right now, in the beginning and the forefront of this renaissance, it's important that we have spaces and containers like this, that our voices are amplified and held and given space, because a lot of these traditions are not new, just as Baba Muru said, just as Sister Lucia said. This is not new information that we're presenting. This is information that we're pulling from the cosmos, that we're pulling from our DNA, that we're pulling from the cosmic consciousness. And so that representation of our faces matter. Resources and accessibility. The history of entheogen use has been eliminated and whitewashed from the Black community via the war on drugs. I'm sure we all know this. Black people have been filtered out of all the studies conducted on healing with entheogens and have been subjected to unwilling human experimentation in the name of advancement. If we're not familiar, a lot of the research that was being done back in the 60s, in the 50s and the 70s were on Black incarcerated bodies, where we were giving high doses of LSD while in jail cells. And we all know that set and setting have a big impact on our experience and how we're vilified. Meanwhile, white counterparts were invited to the clinicians' homes. They were laid on couches, given snacks and libation. So we can see why in our community, when I talk about, anybody talks about entheogens, psychedelics, the first thing you're gonna hear is, well, that's white people shit. It's not. And so that's, again, why that race and that representation matters. Most Black people view entheogens, again, as white people shit, due to a lack of access, due to that whitewashing, due to us being separated from our cultures and stripped from us. And a lot of that, again, is due to spiritual bypassing. The principle of oneness is central to the psychedelic ethos. It's amongst the criteria that scientists use to qualify the mystical experience that may be occasioned by entheogens like psilocybin. This sense of psychedelic unity is said to lay the foundation for a greater connection to the earth, to a higher power, and to a higher people. However, a lot of people use that all love and all light as a way to bypass the work, to bypass the fact that, again, black bodies were sacrificed, brown bodies were sacrificed in the name of this research. They use our technologies and put their own names on it and plagiarize it and use psychedelics as an excuse. Oh, you have to rise above that, you have to heal that. And we all know that's harmful. Again, anti-racism is a form of entheogen harm, or entheogenic harm reduction. When embarking on a journey of engaging in anti-racist practice, it is helpful to begin by acknowledging that harm is integral to the human experience and operates interpersonally and institutionally inside and outside of the psychedelic community. So again, when we think of racism, we probably think of an individual. That individual is racist. We don't really think of it as a construct, of a social construct. It's inside of institutions. Like, it is revolutionary that, again, just like Brother Moody said, it is revolutionary that we are here in this academic space, taking up academic space. That is a direct slap in the face of the institutional racism that I'm sure exists at Miami University. The psychedelic community is a microcosm of the dominant culture, and racial inequality is present in both spheres. As a result, it makes sense to implement anti-racist practice to reduce the intersecting harms of racism as a systemic cultural phenomenon that exists outside interpersonal dynamics and intentions alone. Again, it's dismantling that system. Okay, it's dismantling what's within us, doing that inner work, but it's also important that we do that outer work. So again, just being here, again, just holding special spaces for the people that you're sitting for. If you're a facilitator in here, this is integral to that harm reduction, because we can walk into a lot of these spaces and unintentionally create harm within individuals. We can unintentionally perpetuate the system, especially if that system protects us, if it's something that we're not even privy to. So again, it's bringing that to the forefront of your mind, and just doing that is a way of fighting. It's a way of reducing harm. Cultivating and facilitating safe spaces for Black people. The principle of psychedelic intersectionality demands we use these medicines as a jump-off point to further justice within the psychedelic community and beyond. So when you're sitting with these medicines, use that energy, use that knowledge, tap in to that knowledge to be able to cultivate safe spaces. Not just for Black bodies, but for bodies in general. Okay, there's an intersectionality here. Okay, where we use these medicines again as a jumping point. So we can use these as a space to make sure these spaces stay sacred to the people and the practices in which they come from. And that's important because we've had enough erasure as it is. There's been enough bypassing. There's been enough commandeering. There's enough rebranding, enough washing. So we use this as that intersectionality. We get a do-over of all the renaissances that we've already been through. We get a do-over, and this is our time to do it right. This is our time to do it different. That's me and my husband's motto is do something different. I get bouts of deja vu all the time. It's do something different. Somebody quick. Do something different. Do something different, because in my mind, at least, in my philosophy, that deja vu, that's like a checkpoint. That means I did something and I messed up, and I'm back here and I got to do it again. So do something different. What can you do? What can anybody do? Again, and I'm going to keep saying it till you sick of me. I'm going to create safe spaces. An integral part of the psychedelic experience is feeling safe. There's a lot of things we don't talk about. We talk about we talk about setting, we talk about dosage, we talk about a lot of stuff, but a part of that set and setting are like the 3 S's: set, setting, and safety. It's important to know that your medicine is safe. We talk about where you're getting your medicine from, the energies, and that it passes through before it gets to you. That matters. That's why self-cultivation is pushed so very hard in our community that the best place you can get it is at your own hands. That's a special connection. But if you haven't tapped into that knowledge yet to cultivate your own medicine, then find somebody that you feel is safe. Develop a criteria to vet your source so that you know that the medicine you're consuming is safe. It's helpful to feel safe in your physical environment. So again, that setting, feeling safe. If you don't feel safe at your mom's house, and that's where you are, find a safe place to do it. If you don't feel safe with the hands that are helping you guide through the journey, you're gonna have to do something different, because it's important that that environment is also safe. And it's supportive to feel safe with those that are around you. And again, these are all key, integral pieces to deifying, and deifying in a healing way and not in a traumatic way. Because I know we talk about healing with entheogens a lot. However, you can also cause harm in these vulnerable spaces if you're not feeling safe, if your medicine wasn't procured safely, if your person that you're with, or the people, your tribe that you're with, and you're not supposed to be there. It's important to feel safe in your mind, to feel safe in your body, to feel safe in your spirit, your soul, your heart, in your environment. Make whatever you provide, most of us at least, provide some type of service centered around entheogens. So we must make sure that whatever service, medicine you provide is financially accessible. A large barrier for Black people in psychedelic spaces is accessibility due to cost. Most clinical studies, ceremonies, retreats, and other services are grossly overpriced, deeming them inaccessible to the communities that could benefit from them most. We all say we all can use some psychedelic healing. We all need to tap into the mushroom. We all need to sit on the mat with ayahuasca. We need to go ride that toad. But is it accessible to the communities in which they come from, the descendants of the communities in which they come from? Because like I said before, I don't know too many people that can just drop $2,000 on a ketamine clinic. I don't know too many people that can just go on a retreat, because we have kids. We have responsibilities. Again, turning back to those privileges, a lot of us have that privilege of having a village to watch our kids while we go off and run into the jungle, but most of us don't. Most of us work a 9 to 5. We don't even have time. How long is the trip? How long is the average trip?
6 to 8 hours.
6 to 8 hours. And that's psilocybin. So ayahuasca, we know that's a different one. How many of us have 6 to 8 hours of free time? What is free time? You're paying something to get that time. And whether that's time with your kids, whether that's neglecting your house chores, or whatever it is. So it's another privilege. So again, we don't have that 6 to 8 hours. We have to make our services accessible. So just like I know that the Cosmic Keymakers course has scholarships for people of color. There's quite a few people that I know that have scholarships. Do something. Make a payment plan if you're gonna offer retreats. Make it accessible to the people that ancestors brought this technology forward. Make it accessible to the people that need that healing the most, because when I say entheogens can do so much for the Black community and we don't know it yet, we gotta make it known, y'all. We gotta make it known, we gotta bring it to the forefront. But once we know, we also have to make it accessible. Offer flexible spaces. Facilitators, guides, sitters, clinicians, you name it, all tend to try to fit all of their clients into a one-size-fits-all experience. How many times have somebody said, oh, you're tripping the wrong way? Oh, you're not doing that right. Oh, no, you gotta do this. Because we have this one-size-fits-all approach to how we sit for people. We need diverse approaches for an equally diverse community. So again, cultural background really matters when you're sitting in these spaces. So if I'm about to deify with somebody that isn't from my cultural background, you should be able to refer me to somebody that will probably fit better. And I know a lot of people ask, Moody was talking about, you in here for these finances for that bag. However, and so you don't want to say no to anybody, because I charge $500 to sit, so why am I going to miss $500 when it's more costly the harm that you could do by not referring that person to the right space, to the right place. So be flexible, and it's okay to say no. It's okay. It's okay if you have a script that you follow, a journey that you follow, that you take your clients through, but it's also okay to tailor that script to that person. It's okay to deter from whatever route you are on. Educate and advocate. Don't be afraid to learn and talk about the disparities Black people face in psychedelic spaces. I know I'm not, that's why I'm up here. Don't be afraid to acknowledge any level of privilege you have in these spaces. So if you are of a privileged body, of a privileged background, don't be afraid to acknowledge that privilege. It's okay, but what's not okay is to benefit from that privilege and not say anything, not to uplift those who don't have the same privileges as you do. Don't be afraid, okay, to have in these spaces. And most importantly, don't be afraid to create conversations and develop inclusive healing modalities. It's okay to change. As my husband says all the time, that which does not change, that which does not evolve, dies. And this is something that we cannot afford to die out. All these healing hands, all these containers, all these spaces, all this knowledge, we can't afford to have that die. So, don't be afraid to create conversations and develop inclusive healing modalities. In fact, that's what you should be doing. Call it like you see it. The way I'm set up, I'm gonna call it like I see it. I'm gonna call a spade, okay? I'm gonna call a mushroom a mushroom. I'm gonna say what it is. It's okay to admit you may not be the healer for this person. It's okay. Because we all don't fit in the same box. You don't even got room for everybody in your box. And that's okay. Your box ain't big enough and it's all right. You may not be the facilitator. You may not be the guide, etc. for a Black client. And that's okay. That's all right. Not seeing color and centering spiritual bypassing isn't going to create a safe space. It's not going to help you do that. It's not going to help you create healing experiences for your Black clients. And there may become a day where they will be in a space to come sit with you. But you got to check that ego at the door, just like you checked your bag on that flight that got you here. You got to check that. I'm like, baby, I can't help you, but that's why flexible spaces. I have somebody for you. I have a sister for you. I have a brother for you. I have a being for you. I have an energy that resonates better than I think I could. That's why it's really, really important that we just don't say yes to everybody. It's okay to have a vetting process. It's like you vet where you get your medicine. It's like you vet what you're gonna eat in the morning and what you're gonna wear and whether it's appropriate for where you're going. It's okay to vet your people, and it's okay to put them where they need to go. And I think we're done. Again, thank you.